Do you guys have a little bun in the oven already? Or like what's going on
No,
there?
no.
No.
In fact, I'm back to being like, no, I don't want to do that.
This is the Awesome Matt Podcast. I'm Austin.
This is Matt.
And this week we watched Malignant episode 25 for our podcast. Can you believe that, Matt? 25, we're a quarter of the way to 100.
That means for the majority of 25 weeks, we've done this every single week. Which, like, honestly, when it comes to consistency on my part, I'm impressed with myself. Because when we decided to do this, I was like, I'm really going to do this. And I have succeeded for 25 weeks straight. So here's to
Nice.
25 more.
Feels good.
Ding. Okay.
Okay, fair enough. But Matt, what have you been watching this week?
Okay. So two big things. One, I got started on My Hero Academia, the newest season. So far, honestly, I'm not in love with it, but I know that that's because like the first half of the seasons usually have some kind of tournament kind of battle thing going on, and now that I've seen it for the last however many seasons, I'm just kind of like, meh. I just want to get into the more like story stuff. The things that happened in the very first episode got me pretty pumped up. So for that to kind of not necessarily end, but be to be continued a little bit of like, okay, here's this really cool stuff with Deku and what's going on with One for All. Now pause on all that. Let's watch everybody else fight for the next 6 episodes, and then maybe we'll see something. I don't know yet. So because I'm right on the episode where he's about to go up against Class B in his own little group. So I'm assuming something's going to happen. We'll see. But it's as good as ever. It's My Hero Academia. But what I watched last night, which I enjoyed quite a bit actually, was Free Guy. Did you see this?
I have not, but it is on like the to watch movies. Now that movies are no longer coming to like streaming services right away, or like you can't watch them right away, I'm gonna be missing a lot of like the new up and coming movies. So
it's not a perfect movie, it's not amazing, but it was so much fun. Like the perfect kind of just like, let's go see a movie and let's have fun, let's be pleasantly surprised by something. And Ryan Reynolds is great in it. I think it was interesting to see him play someone who was a little bit more of like a blundering kind of oaf, I guess, a little bit, because he is. I don't want to give you spoilers because you hate spoilers, but he was good in it. He was really good. Taika Waititi's in it, which is always a treat for me. there's a lot of people in it that I was super happy to see. But one who I particularly liked was the main female lead in it. She's done pretty much mostly British stuff, and then she was in this, and I thought she was like the star performance, or at least kind of like the breakout role of just like, oh, I think I'm going to be seeing more of her. Like, she's super cute, she was super good in it. I like that. So that's all I watched. Austin, what did you watch?
Yeah, man, I've really been on this like Tolkien hit right now.
Okay.
So while I've just been like in the middle of doing things or just like editing things like that, I've been having so I first went through The Hobbit, and I went through all 3 movies of The Hobbit, which I'm starting to understand a little bit why so many people were upset with The Hobbit. Now, when I watched The Hobbit, I liked it a lot. I thought it was great, and it was a fun story. Did I ever read the Hobbit book? No, and that's probably why I enjoyed the movies. What I will say is like the CGI that is done into it, and the fact that it's filmed in like 30 frames per second, you can really like, you miss a lot of the things that you love in like cinematography, and it felt more like a video game than it did actually like a movie series. So although all that's going on, I still love it. I think it's great. But I've been watching the extended edition original trilogy of Lord of the Rings 2, and I just barely finished The Fellowship, and now I'm on the Twin Towers, not the Two Towers. I always called it the Two Towers growing up just because 9/11 was like so frequent in my life. I always thought it was the Two Towers. But like, what's funny though is my wife has never seen the movies. Like, she's kind of just been like chilling around me as I'm watching them. So I was like explain a little bit about like what's going on, or like just like some like behind the scenes stuff. Of course, I explained the scenes of like like that knife that he just like knocked out of the air with the sword. Yeah, that was a real knife. That wasn't a prop. Or it's like when he kicked the helmet, he broke his foot. So
that's one I know.
Yeah, so it's all fun. It's all fun, but really like part of why I've been so absorbed into them is like after I finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, after I finished Attack on Titan, it was like I don't know what show I want to watch next. So I've kind of just been like on some comfort movies that I know will take up a lot of time while I'm doing other things. So that's what I've been hooked on recently. I've been joking with my wife that it's like the last movie is 4.5 hours, even though it is 4.5 hours. That should last me over for this week. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Random question.
Yeah.
What are your memories of 9/11? Like, are those pretty clear to you at all, or were you young enough that you were just a little oblivious to it?
So here's how 9/11 happened for me. I went to school, and then they pulled everybody into an assembly. I was in 2nd grade at the time. And in the assembly, they very much explained like the whole thing. I didn't know what the Twin Towers were. I didn't know like the whole significance of it. Like this is like my first actual exposure to terrorism. And so many people were like crying, and I was just kind of like a lost kid. So really like I didn't have an emotional impact by it. They sent everybody home, so I got to go home early on the day.
Whoa, that did not happen to me. That's crazy.
But what I will say though is if you are looking for I'm not going to call it a great story, but a story that is like pretty impactful behind 9/11 and kind of just like it is a little bit motivational, but also kind of like gives a better scope of like those who were actually there and who were actually impacted by it. Casey Neistat has a video about it.
Yeah.
Where, so for, I guess just kind of for context, he was 18 at the time and he just barely moved to New York. He'd been there for about 3 months. Jeez. And he was staying on a friend's couch because he was so broke that he couldn't afford like his own place. And his friend's apartment was like right next to the towers. Jeez. So like he heard all that going on. He went outside there. He saw like paramedics just like throwing sheets over like bodies, and just like he just kind of like grabbed his video camera and just like recorded just whatever he could. Because of like they had to like close off so much of the city, he had to pretty much he got like one of the yellow vests and a hard hat and like walked past the line to go into his friend's apartment to like get his clothes because they weren't letting anybody pass. So he had to like break into his own place of living to get his stuff so that way he could do something else. But
that's
crazy. But yeah, 9/11 to me, not that significant. However, hearing other people's stories and things like that, like it's bananas. What was your experience like?
My mom was supposed to be in New York that week, and she was actually gonna leave. Yeah, she was gonna leave. She was gonna leave the next week, and she didn't want to go. And I remember, I'll never, the people talk about you, and you'll never forget where you were. And I was like sitting downstairs, putting my shoes on, sitting on the couch, and she came running downstairs, and she's like, "Something happened in New York. Maybe I won't have to go." Like she was kind of excited because she didn't want to go. And then she turned the TV on, and it was like, whoa. And I was 13, so I was just kind of at the age to really like recognize that something really big had happened, but I still think I was young enough to be a little bit kind of disconnected from it to a degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly my experience. We didn't go home. I remember we didn't have an assembly. My principal got on the intercom and kind of said some stuff of just kind of like, something really bad just happened. And yeah, I mean, it was 20 years ago now, so it's a blur now. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I was just curious because I know you're younger than me, and I know it's to you it must have been so much different. But okay, yeah. Anyway, let's get on with the movie.
Yeah, let's go into some positives here. So, first off, let me synopsis this movie. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, so I'm gonna kind of like jump ahead to some stuff, but you know, it's gonna be okay. So Malignant follows the story of Madison, an orphan who was adopted at the age of 8 and has no memory prior to that time. In the current day, Madison, now a widow after her husband was killed by some force, but also took her soon-to-be daughter from her while that she was carrying. Before her husband died and her daughter died, Madison got into an argument with her husband, and her head was slammed against the wall, obviously cracking her skull. The skull crack revealed a parasitic conjoined twin named Gabriel, whom most of his body was removed at the age of 8, thus freeing him from Madison and his anger. Now, knowing these things, after the skull is cracked, Gabriel decides to take his revenge on those who pretty much took him away from the world, going after the doctors who helped Madison and Madison's original mother and her pretty much adopted sister, and anybody around her that she cared about. I want to be honest here. After many deaths and many comedic chase scenes, we have the final reveal that Gabriel is in fact Madison. Madison is in fact Gabriel. Finkel is Ihorn. Ihorn is Finkel. We find out they're in the same body. But during Gabriel's final attempt for revenge, he goes after Madison's adopted sister as well as his birth mom, only for Madison to take control of her body and lock Gabriel's rage away. Or did they? Who knows? There might be a sequel after this. Now, Matt, before I ask you what you liked about this movie, just because there's so much twists and turns, you yourself are a twin. Not a parasitic twin, I hope. But does this fit? Like, where does this fit on like your twin list movie? Is this like towards like the top? Is this in the bottom? Like, where are you gonna put this?
Oh, this is like bottom of the barrel.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie that had anything to do with twins that was worse than this.
Okay.
But I mean,
Fair.
I mean, we'll get into it, but usually like the twin movies that I see, like twins tend to be a really positive thing. Unless, let me think. There's one I haven't seen that's about twins who are doctors, who I think they're like creating their own surgical tools and using them illegally, and it's very, very weird, but I've never seen it. I just had a friend who texted me, he's like, man, I just watched this movie and it reminds me so much of you and Fun, which was a joke, obviously, because then I went and I read like the Wikipedia synopsis and I was like, he's making fun of me because he knows we're not creeps. Yeah, I mean, there was no part of me that was like, yeah, score one for twins in this movie, which is usually when I enjoy twins in a movie. So no, this is bottom of the barrel, but yeah.
Okay. Good to know. What did you like about the movie, though?
The more I think about it, the more I'm finding more to enjoy about it. And here's why. I think James Wan, the director, knew exactly what he was doing. I almost think he did, because James Wan directed The Conjuring, which is a good movie. It's a good horror movie. It's a scary horror movie. And for him to go from doing something so adeptly to doing a movie that seems so inadept, I'm starting to think he very much recognized that this was silly. At least I really hope that he did. So I'm starting to like the movie more because of that. Like on my likes list here, I said it turns into a great comedy. So up until the last third, I was just actively disliking it. I was like, the dialogue's terrible, the acting's not good, it's not scary. Like, it is just like cliche, predictable, scary stuff that I've seen ever. The second that I realized that it was, and I'm going to refer to this as a backwards person, and by backwards I mean literally backwards, I was laughing so hard because it just, so there actually was the chase scene where you can tell something is up with the way they're running, but you can't quite tell. I actually liked that scene because at that point I really was like, what is going on? And I think there's even a point where I was like, is it like a backwards person? And I was like, that can't be. I thought because the backwards running reminded me a little bit of Tenet, and so then I was like, maybe there's like a time thing going on here. I don't know. But let's just say, yeah, like once it goes full on, like when the creature is truly revealed and it's murdering people, I was laughing so hard because I was just like,
Yeah.
And at that point, I still thought James Wan was taking himself really seriously, and I thought he really thought this would work, and it is most definitely not working because it just looks goofy and bizarre. So I mean, like when this movie went full comedy for me, I was like, yes, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm laughing, but kind of along those lines and my likes, I am gonna say there's a scene where she's fighting a bunch of cops or he, I guess, Gabriel, we'll say that, backwards person, is fighting a bunch of cops in a police station, and I actually was like, there are things going on visually here that actually look good. Like if this was a fight scene of a non-backwards person, like a normal person fighting a bunch of people, like this works. It looks good. As the camera was doing some funky stuff that I was like, yes, that works. So I actually really, really liked that scene in particular. But man, I just cannot get over that backwards person. Like I love describing it to people, and I'm like, so her head splits open and her face comes out, and then I do an impression of running around backwards like this. Like they run around and they kill people like this, and it just makes me laugh every single time. That was fun, and really, like, I guess this all really hinges on whether or not this director knew he was doing something very silly. If he knew he was doing something silly, this is like a masterful movie. Like I think this is one of the best horror comedies that has come around in a long time. If not, that is very unfortunate that James Wan's career has taken this kind of a turn. Let's see. There was some cinematography that I enjoyed, mentioning the fight scene, but there was also some scenes where she was running around her house and it was all above following her. I was like, so last week when I told you I was getting some ideas of what the movie may have been about, I actually was thinking the whole movie might take place just in the house, in a series of really long shots, or what was cut together to look like single shots as she ran through the house in that way. And I would have loved to see something like that. It was not that. So those were the scenes that I thought were filmed probably the best. But yeah, like interestingly, although like objectively this movie's not good, there was a lot to like about it. I had a lot of fun. What did you like?
Yeah. So at the very beginning of the movie, I was like, this is kind of spooky. This is kind of weird. Like, okay, actually, let me step back. Very, very beginning where it's like they walk into the room and like the things like snapping arms and like killing people. Like that's a little disturbing, and they kept it very, very cryptic, very mysterious. But like they told us exactly what the hell was going on at the beginning, where it's like, let's cut the cancer out, like all in context of going through the journey. Like you understand exactly, like, oh yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. But we didn't have enough pieces at that point to really put it together that like what the hell was going on here.
That first 15 minutes, I was like, I'm guessing this is about Alien. Like, is this an Alien movie? that was where like, I was going. Yeah.
So, but when Gabriel attacks the first time, and when Madison's kind of going back and forth between like she's doing fine day-to-day life, or like she's being like haunted by this thing, was a little spooky for me. Granted, like I jump really easy, I get really involved into scary movies, so like I was kind of like all invested into that. And then the moment it lost me from the spookiness was when like Madison could bleed into what Gabriel was doing, and she could actually like witness the murders. Like that's kind of where like it was breaking into, and like it was giving me too much visual and context to what was going on, and I didn't really want that. So I liked that it was spooky. I liked when it was, there's two parts of the movie that I like the very beginning where it's like either like really scary, or I like the end where it's like it's just really funny about what's going on. Like, but like that whole like middle chunk, which is a whole third of the movie, if not more, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So it's whatever. What I will say, and I want to tag onto the cinematography with you. Yeah, some shots look awesome. I love their use of color as well. They really used red as like, this is when things are like gonna start to go down, and it showed a lot as they were going through. So that was pretty dope. Also, I like that it was different. I mean, when we talk about like The Conjuring and Insidious and all of these things, like it's paranormal, but I've never heard a parasitic twin before. Like, just no.
So there's actually, from what I understand, there's some historical precedence for this.
Oh.
Where there was a guy who, because it is possible, like Alec Baldwin had like a weird thing on his shoulder that he had removed when he was like 26, and they were like, yeah, that was just technically like that was part of like what could have been like a Siamese twin that just didn't form all the way, and like it's a thing that happens. But there's also like, I read a thing, and this was on the internet, it could totally be fake, but it claimed there was a guy who had like a little bit of a face on his head, and so you can't remove that, and he claimed like till the day he died, like he could hear its voice in his head and stuff like that, and that's likely just psychological stuff that's going on, and he convinced himself of something, but like technically speaking, there is some like medical things that have happened that you could argue are somewhat similar to this. Could something like this happen? No. And also, really, I mean, Siamese twins are genetically identical. There's no way that a male fraternal twin would be parasitic on your body, at least as far as my medical knowledge, which is vast and superior. Knows. Just kidding. I took an anatomy class, and I got a whole C+ in it, so I know that's not true. Well, it's true that I got a C+. It's not that I know. I definitely got a C+. But.
Yeah. So, because like normally when we talk about spooky with stuff like, it's usually like ghosts, aliens, or like creatures. But for this to be something that's like technically human, but just like weird and maybe spiritual, like they called it the devil, but like it wasn't. They didn't use like any like I don't even know like scriptures or anything like that to define what it actually is. So I liked that different touch. Now, knowing that it's in like the same director as The Conjuring, it probably does fit somewhere into that world. So I wonder if they're going to explore just kind of like some more weird stuff like that. So
what, in like a potential sequel?
Either like potential sequel or maybe just like other movies that are part of this universe where like things just don't go well for people.
So here's my pitch for Malignant sequel that just came to my head right now. James Wan, if you're listening, you can call me to help you. I don't want a horror movie at all, because this was genuinely what I was thinking at the end of the movie. I want to see like boiled legal drama as they defend Madison here, because they're like, well, she killed all these people. It'd be like, parasitic twin killed all these people. How are we supposed to prosecute that? That's the movie. Like
a twist on kind of a twist on like the devil made me do it type thing.
Yeah,
like my twin made me do it.
Yeah, except there was genuinely a thing happening. I want to see that movie. Yeah. Matthew McConaughey can play her lawyer.
If we could also get the scenes where like they talk to like random people who are in like shipping docks and things like that, like, hey, do you know this person? Like, oh yeah, Madison, and then just go on.
Is that a John Mulaney joke that you just stole?
That is definitely John Mulaney.
Well, you know, anyways, the way Matt, in my
heart. Did you hear he's having a baby, by the way? Not to like.
I did hear. I watched his whole interview on Seth Meyers actually, and like loved it because I think he's so great and so happy to see. He seems like he's doing really, really well.
Nice. So. Good. Anyways, Matt, what did you not like about this movie?
Let's see what I wrote. Now I'm so conflicted on what I actually liked or disliked now. Okay, the use of the song "Where Is My Mind"
I
made
was
me want to
thinking
punch
that
in the
too.
face. It was so bad. Like, and it was so like the very first time I played, it was kind of cool because my brain's going like, this sounds familiar. And then suddenly when I really realized what it was, I was like, this is a terrible choice. Why would you choose? I mean, the song fits the movie somewhat well with the lyrics of Where Is My Mind, but still, I was like, don't. This song kind of belongs to Fight Club forever after. I just don't want to. Anyway, that really annoyed me for some reason. That was things.
How dare you play Where They Stood?
I know, and it's funny because here I am saying this when I actually don't really like Fight Club very much. I'm not a huge fan of Fight Club anymore. Was I obsessed with it in high school? Yes, 100%. Like most high school kids, boys at least.
Boys.
The constant horror cliches. Like for me, like you said, it was kind of spooky. Every single scary scene for the like first half of the movie, I was like, okay, now this is gonna happen. Okay, now this is gonna happen. Like it just felt incredibly predictable, like from A to B to C for the entire whole part. But then of course it takes, as I mentioned, a left turn to Jupiter or something and goes into a very weird place. But all of the scary scenes that were supposed to be scary were just so predictable and was bringing nothing new to like the horror genre. But now that I'm believing this movie was meant to be kind of a silly a horror movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Those work. That's great. I think the one thing that really, the scene I wasn't even scared, but where I was like, oh, okay, something different is happening here, is when she opens her washer and she's putting clothes in and she looks over and there's a lady there screaming. And it's like, who the heck is this lady? I haven't seen her anywhere. Oh, I had actually, but like, what's going on? And then suddenly she's kind of in this, like, she's watching Gabriel do that. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But that was about the only thing. But I mean, let me also just talk about the fact that like this is one of those movies that looked to have a pretty decent budget. Like the police station set was huge, and then her sister, when she went to the mental hospital and was kind of searching around the mental hospital, I was like, that's like a place. And then when the cop chasing after Gabriel and they go down to like below Seattle and there's like horse buggies or something like that, I was just like, that is some crazy sets to have built for a movie like this. I was gonna go somewhere with that. They definitely had money. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. What did you dislike? I lost my train of thought.
So as I was kind of mentioning before, like I either wanted it to like stay into the horror or like stay into comedy, and kind of playing it back and forth. I want so bad to say that this movie is like satire, but it's not. It's just,
you don't think so?
No, like I think when they came to it, they realized that, okay, this is kind of goofy. We either have to like put in more horror stuff or like, and have people just be like extremely disappointed in what's going on with the horror, or we have to like just fully reveal this whole thing a little early and then just let people laugh about it. And I think they just took the latter, just because it kind of made it more, I guess, an easier pill to swallow at that point. So it was kind of like, I don't know. Also wasn't a fan of like the good cop, bad cop thing that was going on. Like the lady cop, she just seemed upset about everything for no reason.
Did Count Store
somebody walks up. I was thinking so bad. I was like, if this movie was like 10 years earlier, that would have been Wanda Sykes.
100%. Yes.
But I was like why? Like, you just take a piece out of everybody for no reason? That doesn't make any sense. So that was pretty annoying to me. But also what annoyed me more is that like every girl that came in contact of like the good cop was just like fawning over him. And it's like, what is all this about? Like, did you like hire your cousin for this movie? And it's like, we're just gonna talk about how cute he is. And
actually, speaking of, James Wan's wife was in this in a very like thrown in there role. She was Miss Lonely Hearts, the one who liked the detective. Do you remember her? She would be there on the crime scenes, like gathering evidence.
Yeah.
And when Gabriel
That's his
came in
wife.
and she like hid, I'm pretty sure that's James Bond's wife. But she looked
Could you just
crazy
imagine-
familiar. Like I was trying to find what she had been, and she's been in nothing that I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, that was I was like, they're really overselling this, and it's not subtle in the slightest. So,
I'm also pretty sure that Under Seattle thing is like a real thing, because I've read about it in a book before. Like Seattle really did like build a new city on top of an old city that had burned. That's like a thing.
Yeah,
I think that's crazy.
Part of New York is like that too, where like there's a New York on top of New York, and
oh really? I didn't
it's
know
part
that.
of where like it's part of like the Futurama episode came from, like the New York.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's great. So there's old New York, and the new New York.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just sputtering on. Am I gonna watch Malignant again? Probably not. Really not. Was it fun watching it? Yeah, it's fun. Is it a great movie? Not for me. Are you kind of in the same boat?
I don't think I'll ever watch the whole movie. I think there will come a time in my life where I will watch the last third of the movie again, because it is so bonkers bizarre. And if I'm ever wanting to show someone, like, do you want to see the weirdest freaking horror movie twist I've ever seen that looks kind of hilarious? I definitely want it. I tried to get all my friends to watch it, where I was like, if you just want to see the most bonkers, ridiculous, bizarre movie, you need to watch this because it's completely insane.
Yeah, I've told people about it, but I probably won't go back. So like, recommendation, yeah. Rewatch, no.
No, I agree.
Cool, Matt. What are we watching next week?
Well, so here's my thought, because I think I'm getting Netflix back.
Okay.
Kate. It has gotten poor reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but I really like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I thought it looked like a lot of fun. That is what I'm interested in watching, unless you have any other suggestions.
No, I think that's great. It's on my watch list. I haven't watched it yet. I was considering probably watching it tonight, so I'm on board.
Okay, let's do it. Cool. Okay.
Nice. This week, Malignant. Last week, Kate. Great. 25 episodes, Matt. Hope you're happy.
25. This podcast is turning 25 episodes long. Okay.
Feels good. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Bye, friends.
Have fun.
LA.
See ya.